My name is Tyrone Biggins. Sometimes the endless pursuit
Skooma.
leaves me tired and depleted. But now
Skooma.
comes in a delicious shape.
Sugar-free.
It gives me wings!
It seems you all really wanted me to cover skooma. You asked, and so you shall receive. Before we get into the video today, I just wanted to take some time to thank you all for such a positive and overwhelming response on my last video covering the medicine behind Psycho. It really does mean the world to me, and I'm glad I can make content that teaches people about science and medicine in fun and engaging ways. But enough of that, let's talk about
Skooma.
In the world of Tamriel, skooma is the drug of choice for thieves, smugglers, and desperate souls seeking an escape. But what if this fictional drug had roots in real-world science? Could its effects, like the euphoria, the hallucinations, the addiction, and the burst of energy, actually happen in the real world? My name is Warm Beef, and I am a second-year medical student who loves playing and streaming video games. You can catch me live at twitch.tv/warmbeef. And today, we are going to be diving deep into the medicine behind skooma from the Elder Scrolls games and explore its possible mechanisms of action through the lens of real-world medicine and pharmacology. So what exactly is skooma? Skooma is a hallucinogenic substance that is made from moon sugar and nightshade. It can be smoked in a pipe or consumed in liquid form. According to a conversation with Wujita, an Argonian female in Skyrim located in Riften, skooma was originally created by the Dunmer, or Dark Elves, quote-unquote, a long time ago, likely in the third era of Tamriel. When consumed, skooma leaves its users in a constant and sometimes alternating state of delusional euphoria and lethargy, just fancy ways of saying happiness and subsequent fatigue. Sustained skooma use can even lead to permanent confusion and mental deterioration. It has even been reported to erode teeth as well. In order to understand the effects of skooma on the body, we need to appreciate what exactly it's made out of and its real-world equivalents. As mentioned earlier, skooma is made from two components, moon sugar and nightshade. Moon sugar is a revered Khajiit delicacy, derived from sugarcane. It's thought to be a gift bestowed by the Khajiit gods to chosen individuals. What's interesting is that when moldy or spoiled moon sugar is used to make skooma, it results in skooma that has extreme hallucinogenic effects compared to regular skooma, and can even lead to death. I think this difference gives a little bit of insight into the possible mechanisms of skooma's action. The presence of mold or fungus makes me think that moon sugar is likely contaminated with Claviceps purpurea, which is just a fungus or mushroom that can be found on a specific type of wheat called rye. When this fungus infects the grain, it becomes ergot rye. In nature, ergot rye will develop these hard structures called sclerotia, which replace the regular rye kernels. Inside these sclerotia, the fungus stores alkaloids, which is just a really fancy way of saying basic compounds or compounds that have a pH greater than 7. Of note, ergot rye produces alkaloids such as ergotamine and ergometrine and lysergic acid. All of these compounds can have profound effects on the body and brain. When ergot rye is consumed, it can lead to ergotism or the devil's curse, which is a clinical syndrome, or more simply put, a collection of symptoms which includes violent shaking or convulsions, vomiting, hallucinations, and gangrenous pain in one's limbs. Ergotamine and ergometrine can bind to adrenergic receptors in the body and partially activate them. This is what we call a partial agonist. Receptors are just part of a cell that can receive signals from molecules. When adrenergic receptors are activated, it causes muscles around blood vessels called smooth muscles to constrict, which makes blood vessels smaller. Smaller blood vessels means less blood flow to your limbs. No blood flow means no oxygen, which means cells die and therefore become gangrenous. If left untreated, gangrene serves as a utopia for bacteria and infectious microorganisms. Those microorganisms can eventually make their way into the blood and lead to a condition called sepsis, which is life-threatening. This can explain why skooma users can take too much skooma and end up dying. decreased blood flow may also be the mechanism as to why skooma users lose their teeth, as blood vessels that supply the teeth, like the maxillary artery, may be constricted through skooma use. Less blood flow to the teeth means teeth will begin to decay, and blood flow is needed to maintain the tooth pulp or the inner core of the teeth. The third alkaloid compound found in ergot rye, lysergic acid, was actually instrumental in the discovery of lysergic acid diethylamide, aka LSD, which is a potent hallucinogenic drug. The consumption of ergot rye can lead to hallucinations as a part of the devil's curse. This is because lysergic acid looks very similar to a neurotransmitter in our brains called serotonin. Outside of being a neurotransmitter associated with happiness, serotonin is a molecule that tells our brain how to understand and perceive sensory information coming from our senses like vision, touch, sound, taste, and smell. When lysergic acid is consumed, our bodies can't tell the difference. It then acts on serotonin receptors in the visual cortex, located at the back of the skull, which processes visual information coming from our eyes, and the frontal lobe, located just above your eyes, which helps one to understand and put together all of our sensory information. This is why skooma can produce hallucinations and delusions. So what exactly are hallucinations? Hallucinations are the false perception of something involving any of your five senses. For example, a hallucination might be seeing or hearing something that's actually not present. Delusions, on the other hand, are fixed false beliefs, such as believing that one has superpowers or one is being followed by the CIA. In real life, the Salem witch trials in 1692 to 1693 are theorized to have occurred because townsfolk were unknowingly consuming ergot rye and exhibiting weird witch-like behaviors. Unfortunately, these individuals were killed under the suspicion they were witches or possessed by demonic entities. Hallucinations and delusions from skooma may explain why NPCs in Tamriel who regularly use skooma may engage in weird, eccentric behaviors. If taken in smaller doses, it's also plausible that the lysergic acid in skooma can cause temporary euphoria or happiness, adding to its addictive nature. According to the Elder Scrolls Wiki, long-term skooma use is associated with increased confusion and mental deterioration. Decreased intelligence is even a debuff that is received by the player after consumption of skooma in Oblivion. Oddly enough, there have been many studies linking chronic psychedelic use to structural changes in the anterior and the posterior cingulate gyri of the brain. These are structures located in the forebrain, the larger front portion of the brain, and are responsible for emotion and the recall of memories, important aspects in our mental cognition, or our ability to think. Damage to these structures could explain why long-term skooma users can suffer from decreased intelligence. Once the immediate effects of skooma are resolved, users report extreme lethargy or severe tiredness, which is likely related to the overstimulation of the brain from too much outside or exogenous serotonin. The brain needs time to recover from these intense neurochemical changes in between uses of skooma. The other half of skooma is composed of nightshade, a deadly plant that is commonly found growing near graveyards in Tamriel. It bears a striking resemblance to the real plant, Atropa belladonna. This name literally translates to beautiful lady, but don't let the name fool you. The belladonna plant is extremely poisonous due to the chemical compounds that it makes. Of note, one of the chemical compounds it makes is called scopolamine, which is an anticholinergic agent, meaning that it binds to receptors for acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter, and stops them from working. Acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter that normally promotes our parasympathetic nervous system, or our rest and digest response, opposite to the fight or flight response. So if this plant produces compounds that stop rest and digest responses from working, they will inherently promote the fight or flight response. Since the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems are in a constant fight for power over one another, it makes sense then that the ingestion of a compound like scopolamine would lead to effects like dilated pupils, increased heart rate or tachycardia, rapid breathing or tachypnea, increased blood flow to the muscles, and agitation. All of these things would help a skooma user run away from a threat or face it head-on with increased strength. This could explain why skooma in-game gives users increased speed, stamina, and strength, but at the same time makes users unpredictable and dangerous, especially when paired alongside hallucinations and delusions from ergot rye. Unfortunately, higher doses of belladonna can lead to lethal side effects like arrhythmias of the heart, which just means that the heart does not pump blood effectively or it's not really beating in rhythm. This can lead to decreased blood flow to the brain and other vital organs of the body. This is a very plausible reason as to why skooma can be lethal at higher doses. In keeping with most addictive substances, skooma likely impacts the mesolimbic pathway in the midbrain, which is just the part of the brain that connects to the spinal cord. This is the area of the brain that gets activated or excited in response to doing things that are pleasurable, such as eating food, scoring well on a test, sex, and gaming. Since skooma ramps up the function of serotonin in the brain to cause euphoria or happiness, it's not a stretch to assume that it would also cause the release of dopamine in the brain as well. Increased dopamine in response to skooma use trains the brain into wanting more and more of skooma, eventually leading to the development of an addiction. So that's it. That's how skooma would work in the real world. If you enjoyed this video, please do consider subscribing, leaving a like, or comment. It really does help the video get out there. And if you have any suggestions on what other video games you want me to cover the medicine behind, please do let me know. I'm always looking for new ideas. See you guys in the next one.